Welcome back to the Forensics Detailing channel. The tool giant Dewalt, a bit like Smaug the dragon in The Hobbit, has opened its eye and come alive and is now offering two cordless polishing machines. In this video, we are going to be reviewing them. Welcome back to the Forensics Detailing channel. Before we get started, do not forget to hit the subscribe and the bell icon, guys, which will give you notification to new content as and when it comes through. As always, please check out the link as well for our private Patreon community, where you get access to me if you want to message me any questions around detailing products or detailing processes, machine polishing your car for the first time, all that sort of stuff. And you can pick a level of tiering and support that suits you best. Maybe through to basic membership, which costs as little as $1 a month. It will translate it into whatever currency you're in. Don't worry about that. It's all done through PayPal. Through to early access to content, and through to the monthly contest where you can win things like a box of detailing products, machine polishers, exclusive merch, and all sorts of that stuff. It also helps the channel do what it does, guys, and a huge thank you to anyone that's signed up to Patreon. Let's get on with the video. Right, let's get stuck into this review, guys. So the polishers in question, the first one, the DCM848. What is it? Be careful, John. It's alive. This is a cordless dual action polisher. What is a dual action polisher, John? Well, essentially, you have a plate here which is mounted in a bearing which is offset from the center of the axle, which is driven. So the axle spins, but your bearing is a free spinning bearing mounted off center. So what you get is a funky form of two different movements, and you get no drive on the direct spin or rotation of the plate. So the only drive is done on the orbit. So in other words, if you push down too hard with this machine, the rotation is going to stop and you'll just get a smaller movement of the orbit. To use the machine effectively, you want both forms of movement, the dual part, working at the same time. So you typically won't be pressurizing this into your panel. You'll be keeping it spinning over the paintwork. The benefits of these dual actions is you won't be raising the temperature of the paint so much. You're almost spreading the kind of working area, if you like. So you can't get things like holograms, and it's much harder to kind of burn through edges of your paintwork. It's a safer tool. That's why they've become popular. Next up in this review is the DCM849 cordless rotary. I assume CM stands for cordless machine. It's also brushless, guys. So these two tools are battery powered. There is a corded version of this rotary, but when I shoot the video, there's no corded version of the dual action polisher, which is important. Now, a rotary polisher, guys, it simply spins an axle and spins the plate that's connected on that axle. There's no free spilling element, obviously, because it's not offset. The fact that it's not offset means there's no wobble and less vibration, so this is a much smoother tool to operate. But the downside is, with a single form of movement that's driven, if you run the machine too fast, with too much pressure, with a slow arm speed and aggressive compounds, there's lots of different factors, the softness of the clear coat, etc, etc. But the risks of overheating and over-raising the temperature of the clear coat rapidly, which can cause what's called buffer trails, which is a form of kind of machine marring, holograms. It's a real risk, and it's a very common thing that still goes wrong today. But in the right hands, the advantages of the rotary tool is they're a lot smoother to use than the dual action because it's not offset. So it's a nice smooth tool to use, and it's a very capable tool to use, guys. And you can still finish out with these machines. You can cut well with these machines. It's all down to your technique, the pad choice and the product choice. So which tool you use is not something we're going to cover in the review, but we have a rotary polisher and a dual action polisher. Now let's get stuck in and review these machines properly. Okay, first up, guys, we need to go through the specs of the 848 polisher. Stop turning it on, John. First thing, price, guys. This kit with this polisher, two batteries, and the charger costs around £350, £350 to £360. Now, to give you a comparison, which is what reviews have to do, The Flex tool, which is one of the first cordless free spinning polishers on the market, is around £580 for the same kit, although you get hard shell box with this. So it's a lot cheaper than that. And also, to give you another comparison, a company called ShineMate just recently released a cordless free spinning machine similar to this with 2 batteries and a charger, and it costs £398 for that kit. So Dewalt's price tag of $350 to $360, in my opinion, is very strong. Can you get cheaper than that? I believe you can. I think Sealy have got a cordless tool, free spinning dual action polisher, which you know is cheaper than this. You could probably get sub £300 for the equivalent. That would be bottom of market. But for where Dewalt are, or Dewalt, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, $350 to $360 is a very, very solid price. Next up, weight, guys. I'm going to be doing all my measurements with the batteries that come with it, and that is the 18 volt 5 amp lithium ion batteries. They're kind of flagship ones. They have bigger batteries with more charge and smaller ones which are kind of lighter, so you can mess around. This is kind of like the standard battery that most people are going to be using with this. The tool weighs 3.8 kilograms with the battery on it, guys. Now, to give you a comparison, the Flex tool weighs 2.87. So 3.08 kilograms is one of the heaviest polishers I've ever used, actually. So it's not a light tool in comparison. Next thing, guys, very important with a dual action polisher, what is the speed range of this polisher? Well, its minimum speed on full trigger, that's just the easiest way to do it, is 2,000 OPMs all the way through to 5,500 OPMs. For anyone watching, that is a really, really impressive speed range for a cordless tool. That is the same speed range that you'll typically find on corded varieties of the tool. This is an absolutely critical point, and we'll come back later on and talk about why. To give you a comparison with the Flex runs at a minimum full trigger speed of 2,300 OPMs and a maximum of 3,800. So it's that maximum speed we're interested in. 3,800 here versus 5,500 over there. So there's compromises that are going to come with that speed. That's what I want to talk about later on. But for the time being, we can take away from that Dewalt has a very wide speed range and a very high speed top end. Important. Next up, guys, no load battery testing, where we run the machines on top speed with no load, so no pad on there, and we're not pressing them, setting them down on the panel and clamping them so they're actually polishing. We're just running them at top speed and seeing how long they run for. The Flex 848 cordless ran for 44 minutes, 27 seconds. Yes, 27 seconds. I was standing there timing it. That's the level of dedication. Versus the Flex, which ran for 54 minutes, 44 seconds. The battery on this Flex is not brand new now. When I tested it originally, when it was brand new, it ran for 57 minutes. So you're talking about, what, an extra 13 minutes of run time with the Flex on top speed? Of course, the top speeds are not exactly the same, which has a factor on that. Next up, battery charge times, guys. So I ran the batteries completely out of charge, clamped them in the chargers, and timed how long it took to fully recharge them. The Dewalt took 67 minutes, the Flex took 48. So the performance there of recharging the batteries, not discharging them, was better with the Flex system than the Dewalt system. Next up, noise. Now, tool manufacturers measure noise in noise pressure and noise power, and you can go and Google what those two things mean, or tell me in the comments. So if I sat here and think about it, I'm sure I could work it out. Now, both tool manufacturers state that they have 77 dB noise pressure and 88 dB noise power, so identical. Now, what I did is I installed a noise recording sound meter on my app, and I put the app 50 centimeters away from the tools, and I run the test. Now, when I run the tools at the same speed, with this on 3750 and that on 38, that's as close as I can get, this tool kicks out 68 dB of noise that I record on my noise meter versus the Flex, which kicks out 64 to 65. So pound for pound, this is 3 decibels approximately louder, according to my measuring equipment. If I run this on full speed, 5,500 OPMs, then the noise level is 69 to 70, which is potentially up to 5 decibels louder. So in summary, this tool is louder than the Flex. Both machines, if you're using them day in, day out, in fact, if you're using them, you really should be using headphones. And if you don't, ear defenders, sorry, noise cancellation headphones or ear defenders. If you're not wearing that type of protection, then you risk getting like ringing in your ears and stuff like that. So I'm sure both tool manufacturers advise you on that. Very important to protect your body when you're using these tools day in, day out. If you don't, you will pay the price. Next up, tool vibration. Very important, because the offsetted plate has to be counterbalanced with a weight that should match the complete weight of the plate and the pad, and even the polish that's in that pad, which will affect the weight. When that balance is perfect, you're going to get less vibration, and the way it's engineered affects vibration as well. Dewalt state 10 meters per second squared as the vibration level of this tool. I'm not sure what that means. However, Flex state 5 meters per second squared vibration with this tool, which is about half of this one. Now, I will tell you guys in simple layman's terms, when I set the same speeds, again 3750 on that, 38 on that, this tool is kicking out noticeably more vibration than the Flex tool. At top end, 5,500, the vibration levels are large, and using the tool for an extended period of time, my hands feel quite numb when I'm running it on top speed. So the vibration levels on this tool are quite high in my opinion, and the vibration meter also confirms that this is definitely kicking out more vibration than the Flex tool. Next up, a very important thing to measure is torque or power, or the ability for these tools to bog down. Now, I mentioned that there's the 2 forms of movement. There's the oscillation of the main axle, if you like, or the oscillation of the plate, and the rotation of the plate. And obviously the rotation of the plate is free spinning, so the torque doesn't affect that drive. It's kind of momentum, the orbit creates this thing spinning. Okay, so you can always stop the spin. However, what I find with dual action polishers is that the easier the plate spins when you've just got the tool in your hand and you're just flicking it, that is a good sign, okay? When the plate rubs against the shroud, that friction, I think, creates a tendency for these tools to stall more. So if you took perhaps the Rupes LHR 15, their design, the plate has like a rubberized shroud which actually makes contact with the plate, and that contact is supposed to support the plate and then reduce bearing wear over the life of the machine. This machine doesn't do that. There is no contact at all, but it spins really, really freely. Now, if you compare that again to the Flex, there is a sort of contact made between a rubberized part of the shroud and the plate. You can even hear it, can't you? So if I just spin that with my hand, it will stop rapidly. Now, what's important is what happens when you run the machines up and you put them down on the panel. This is one of the big strengths of the Dewalt, is that this tool is way less prone to bogging down than the Flex tool, in my opinion. At 5,500, this machine, you can really pressure into the panel, and there is no tendency for this to stall at all. So first impressions after one set.
Thoroughly impressed. Thoroughly impressed. Yeah, I really like it.
It's big, isn't it?
It's big, but it's weighted very well.
You're not getting any bog down?
No, and that's what I was surprised about. I really like this tool a lot.
And that is the biggest difference between the two tools. The Flex XFE 15, you have to run this on top speed, like I said in the review of this. You also cannot really pressure this tool into the paint at all. If you do, you will stall it. Even Flex call this tool the kind of finisher. Of course you can cut with this machine, of course you can still cut with it because you're going to work the abrasives, but what you cannot do with the Flex is kind of pressure into the paint. So you use this, I prefer the XCE, and I've talked about this many times on the channel. So you use this kind of gently and you back away from the panel, and if you're going to cut, it's therefore going to take a little bit longer to cut with this machine. So some people, that's a compromise with the XFE. Now, this tool does not have that compromise. That is the first thing you'll notice when you'll crank this up and you're running it at full speed. It has an absolute ton of power, okay? The downside of that is you can burn through your battery pragmatically in about 30 minutes, and if you're running it closer towards the top end, the vibration levels are going to be higher. So there's the pros and cons. Less bogged down, more power effectively, but shorter run times because of it, and more vibration. That's something that you want to keep in your mind because it's a pivotal point of the review. Next up, warranty, guys. Dewalt tools come with a 3-year warranty, which is pretty good because you can hammer the hell out of this tool in 3 years if you're using it every single day. So that's pretty impressive that they're giving a 3-year warranty, so it must be able to withstand the hammering. The Flex tools also come with a 3-year warranty. Most other tools, or unbranded or rebranded tools, if you know what I mean, will come with a 1-year manufacturer warranty. We are going to be losing our 2-year European-wide warranty on all consumer goods when we leave the EU, I believe. So, in summary, the Dewalt 3-year warranty is going to be better than your market average, but it's in line with kind of Flex as well at 3 years. So it's a strength. Finally, guys, heat build up on this tool. I'm noticing with cordless tools, they don't seem to kick out the same heat levels even when you're running them for, you know, extended periods of time, swapping the batteries out, running them for hours on hours. They never seem to get hot. Whether that's because all the plastic components are kind of shielding the sort of metal components inside more that are getting hot, or just the cooling's improved, I don't know. But this tool is as cool as a cucumber, and so is the XFE 15. So no problems on overheating. You've got nothing to worry about there. Next up, guys, we're moving on to the Rotary DCM849. And again, we're going to start with price. Just like its dual action price, it's priced virtually the same, around £350 to £360. Compare that to the Flex, where their cordless Rotary is called the PE14-2. That kit costs around £580, I believe. So once again, there's a saving to be had on the top of market price. There are a lot more Rotary offerings out there though, guys, cordless Rotary offerings. So you will perhaps be able to get sub 300 for perhaps one of the unbranded, your rebranded tool manufacturer kits if you shop around. But the summary of the price is that it's a strong price for where Dewalt are, where they sit in the hierarchy of the kind of market. Next up, weight. Now, unlike its dual action brother over here, which is one of the heaviest kind of tools I've used so far, nearly 3.1 kilos, this Rotary polisher weighs in at 2.73 kilos. That is lighter. That's lighter than the Flex cordless PE114-2, which weighs 2.85 kilos. So it's big, it's a big frame, it's a big chassis, but it's very, very light. And that is impressive. So that's a big strength of this Rotary tool. They've got the weight of it right down. Next things, operating speeds at full trigger. This Rotary has a minimum operating speed of 800 on full trigger and a maximum of 2,200 rotations per minute, RPMs. Compare that to the Flex offering. That has a minimum speed of 900 and a maximum speed of 1450. So in summary, this goes slower and about a third quicker as well. And that extra top speed becomes desirable when you're using smaller backing plates where your distances travelled on the smaller plates are a lot less, so you need to crank up faster when you're using spot pads. So a top speed of 2,200 is desirable, especially with you know, your 30mm or 1-inch spot pads, or even your 2-inch or your 3-inch. So that's an improvement. So next up guys, battery life. I ran this tool at top speed, 220 RPMs with a full battery charge, and it ran for 75 minutes, 47 seconds. My dinner went cold waiting for this thing to run out of charge. It lasted a lot longer than I thought was possible. Compare that to the Flex. That ran for 68 minutes on 1450, and I thought that was impressive. So this has really done well on its runtime, especially because it's running faster as well at 2,200. So how they've achieved that, I'm not sure. The battery is brand new, but the battery was brand new on the Flex when I did that test a few years ago. So quite simply, the runtime on this was phenomenal. Next up guys, the charge time of this battery. We've kind of already covered that because it's the same battery that I used in the other polisher, but I had to charge this one as well, so it gives us a second reading. It took 67 minutes to charge this battery, and that one was 65 minutes. So there's a little bit of variance maybe on if you draw every last bit of juice out of them, or maybe however it measures it's on full power. So a little bit of plus or minus, and we know that the Flex one takes, you know, around about 50 to 55 minutes. So these do take a little bit longer to charge. That may be how the charger works. Related to this guys, this 18 volt 5 amp battery from Dewalt, I believe costs around £65 if you need to ever go and buy some new batteries. The Flex equivalent costs £95, so the batteries are a little bit cheaper as well. Next up, noise guys. Now I do not have the Flex Cordless tool to compare it to side by side with my noise meter, but when I recorded this in the same way as the others, it kicked out 66 to 67 decibels, so it's a little bit quieter than the dual action polisher, which kind of makes sense. I have a Flex corded rotary up there, and that kicked out 67 to 68 decibel, set at the same speed with the same distances, so they're very similar, but it's not a direct cordless to cordless comparison, so I don't really want to pitch the two up against each other. But all I'll say is this tool is not noisy. I'm on top speed here, listen. And you're not going to be running on top speed, you're going to be polishing closer to a, you know, probably closer to 1,000, maybe some of you go up to 1,400. So I put it on 1,200. It's not noisy at all, is it? So it's not a loud tool. It does have a slight sort of, I'm not sure if grindy is the word, but I used to own the 849 corded version of this many years ago, and I remember it being slightly noise-wise, it didn't make the same kind of sound. So there you go. But simple noise test, this machine isn't loud or abnormally loud in any way. Next up guys, warranty. Same as the dual action, this comes with 3 years, so you've got an idea of how that compares to other tools from when we discussed it earlier on. And again guys, heat, running this tool continually, you are not going to have any problems with heat. In fact, the faster you run this tool and the harder you work it, you create kind of more airflow going through it. So it's a bit like driving your car down a motorway fast, it's getting lots of air, and your car is probably more prone to overheating when it's not driving fast and you're idling slow. So when you slow this tool down, the airflow will probably increase and the tool should heat up. But I cannot make this tool get anywhere near sort of hot or alarmingly hot where I'm worried about touching the metal components and stuff like that. All of these cordless tools seem to be really, really good on heat. Okay guys, finally bogging down and kind of slowing the machine down stall. You can slow these rotaries down. You know, the cordless ones, when you pressure into them, you can feel a slowdown in the machine. Now, unlike their corded counterparts, they don't tend to have tachos on them. So the corded ones will say, oh, your machine's slowing down, I'll increase the speed, I'll give you a bit more power to the motor and increase and compensate. These machines don't compensate because I think there's probably an overhead with managing and changing the power all the time that you'll probably lose battery efficiency. That's just me thinking aloud, and that could be a load of old nonsense. But that's the only reason for it. But guys, quite simply with a rotary, I don't think you really want to be... I mean, some people will argue that you use pressure and you use tilt with these machines. You'll be fine doing that. The only way you'll notice a slowdown is if you're using really large, wide pads and you're really pressurizing into the paint. So if you work like that, then a corded tool will be favourable over a cordless in every single scenario. It's one of the compromises of a cordless version. Next up, guys, general positives and negatives. This is really important. I'm going to go through both tools and tell you if these positives and negatives apply to each particular tool. It's important for me to state that this tool has been sent to the channel very kindly by the UK distributor for Dewalt. But as I state, this is supposed to be a review, and part of doing a review and part of life, whenever you're talking about things, I'm a big BMW fan. I'm always talking about BMW to my friends. The conversation is not interesting if you always only talk about the things which are great and amazing. As with everything in life, there's positives and negatives and compromises, and it's the duty of the review to talk about those so that anyone buying this tool can make an informed decision. So that's what the aim of this review is. We're not here to trash the tools, but we're also not here to promote them. We're here to review them. So let's get stuck in with my observations, guys. So there's going to be some negatives here. Some of them are very minor as well. Let's get stuck in. First thing, the battery. When you snap the battery blocks into the charger, it's a bit stiff and it's a bit hard. And sometimes you can think you've actually got the battery inserted and you haven't. It needs a shunt to get it in. Then it gives a big click and it's in and it starts charging. That could be smoother. Next thing, on the charge meter itself, the charge level indicator on the recharger, when I first used it, I found it non-intuitive. So much so that the charger has a scale there which explains to you how the actual charge indicator works. You have two bars, one bar which is 2/3 longer than the other one, that flashes. When that first big bar is flashing, then it's still doing its preliminary bit of the charge, and then when it's on that last third, it's almost charged. Well, I would just prefer an indicator that's like 0 to 100, and it can just go up and tell me roughly when it's at full charge. Or like on the Flex machine, when you plug it in, it tells you in minutes how long it's going to take to charge, so you know when it's going to be ready. So that system could be improved. Next up, the battery, as well as needing a shunt to get it into the charger, needs a bit of a shunt to get it into the machine as well. It could be smoother compared to the Flex tool. As mentioned earlier on, the dual action 848 machine has a higher level of vibration than I am used to, which is definitely intrusive at top speed and perhaps manageable at usable speeds closer to sub 4,000 OPMs. There is a slight wobble on the head of the machine where the battery is mounted. It wobbles and rattles a little bit. So in an ideal world, I go around the tool and I torque everything up my hands and see if anything rattles or wobbles around. And that was one thing I found rattled. The rotary polisher, the actuation zone on the trigger, there's a little bit of a dead spot or a zone where nothing happens when you can move the trigger, and then the actuation zone kicks in a little bit later on. So I prefer a wider actuation zone where I can feel the machine rotation speed changing all the way through the rotation of the trigger. There's a little bit of a dead spot there. The dual action polisher, I felt, had a better actuation zone as a positive. So it's just on the rotary polisher I noticed that. Next up, guys, relating to charge again, in the instruction manual of all of these tools is a table which lists all the different Dewalt chargers and all the different Dewalt batteries, and you can look at the charge times. You can look them up for your charger versus your battery, which is great, and I wanted to get that information. However, the DCB116 charger model that I've got there is not in the table, which is bizarre because that's the one that comes with the polisher. It's the only one I'm interested in. So I would have liked that that's an administration thing, but I'd like that to be updated. Positive of all of these tools is they're brushless, so you haven't got to go and maintain the brushes at a later date. A negative on the rotary, as I mentioned before, there's a slight grinding noise with the rotary. Its corded counterpart that I had many years ago was as smooth as a whistle and didn't have that grinding noise. That can be the internal kind of gearing and cogs that make those noises. It's dangerous for me to say if it makes more of a grinding noise, it's less quality, because that might not be true. But so I'm just going to say that it makes that noise, and then you can infer from that whatever you like. Another negative is that the dual action polisher 848 only supports the proprietary 125mm plate that comes with the machine. There will be a demand, there will be people out there that want to put a 150mm plate on it. That's not supported, so that's a negative. Another negative is that there are no accessories, extension bars or plate sizes made by Dewalt. So you can go and buy M14 plates and extension bars from other companies and use them on those tools, but it'd be nice if Dewalt made them, because you'd know that they would mate up and pair up with the threads on the Dewalt system. You know, so that's a little negative. Okay guys, the next observation or negative, the trigger lock mechanism on these particular tools. You've got a pin that sits on both sides, yeah? Now that trigger lock has two functions. If you press it with your thumb when the trigger is not pressed, it locks the trigger to stop you turning the machine on. That's a positive. I don't see that feature on lots of tools. These are highly portable and you can chuck them in your bag, and without that trigger lock, the tool could turn itself on. You could be driving along and hear this. So that's a nice feature, okay? However, the flip side to this, guys, the trigger lock which keeps the machine running, so you don't always have to keep gripping the trigger, the one that we're using all the time, it's on the wrong side of the tool, because you're using your fingers to grip this, okay? Now to put the trigger lock on, you've then got to take your finger off of the trigger, and then it's kind of like when the old Captain Spock does his handshake and you move your fingers. Your fingers are good at going this way. They're not good at kind of going up this way. So what you kind of have to do is you kind of have to make sure you've got two fingers on the trigger and you keep the trigger down with this finger, then shuffle this one up and then pincer it on with the side of your finger, like that. Now, that sounds a bit dramatic, okay? You get used to your trigger lock mechanism. So after a while, you'll be doing that. You'll be doing that without too much trouble. But I'm just telling you that most tool manufacturers will put that trigger lock on the thumb side. Why? Because your fingers are for the trigger and your thumb is always free. So you can use your thumb to change the speed, and you can use your thumb to use the trigger lock. So what I would have done is done it the other way round, so that the lock on is the easy one with your thumb, and the lock to stop you using it is on the side that's less intuitive. And of course, this is primarily thinking of right-handed users, which is going to be the vast majority. Although it's worth saying that you could use this tool obviously if you're left and right-handed. So that's just a little improvement which I feel could be made on the trigger lock system. Another observational negative, guys, is that these tools are large. They are proper they are like the Tonka equivalent. You know, you've got your Matchbox toys and you get your Tonka toys out, and they feel really large, like they were designed for ogres. They are big. Now, obviously, the bits that you hold are all nice and ergonomically well designed, but these central bits on the machine are really wide and huge, especially if I can compare them to kind of the Flex, where they're really slim and you can kind of get your hands around every single part of the tool. So we made a note of that. They are big tools in terms of their footprint. One critical part of the review, listen to this bit if you've not listened to the rest of it. Dewalt are giving you higher operating speeds on the Rotary at 2200 and the dual action polisher 5500 OPMs. Okay. That gives you a capability that I've talked about earlier on in the video. It's really nice, it's really desirable. The trade-off is that you are able to drain your batteries in around between 20 minutes and half an hour. In real world times, you can knock that battery out in about half an hour of polishing. Okay, but while you're using the machine, you've got this power there and it's lovely. The problem being is these batteries, as we've already stated, take 65 to 67 minutes to charge. So if you can knock your battery out in around about 30 minutes real-time usage polishing cars, you've got a window of 30 minutes downtime potentially if you've got two batteries. That creates a problem, and it's a big point of this review, that in theory you may need to get a third battery and also a second charger potentially, mightn't you? Because you need to be able to, once you've gone through your first two batteries, when you drain that second one, there could be a downside. Correct me if I've got my logic wrong there. So there could be an increased cost. Now, 3 Dewalt batteries costs around about the same as 2 Flex batteries. So that's less of an issue, but you need another charger. And then it starts becoming a bit silly when you've kind of got two on the go. Or does it? Or am I over kind of worrying about that? I don't know. But it's the purpose of the review to tell you about this. You do not have the ability to round robin two batteries without downtime. That is the compromise of Dewalt giving you more speed, more power, more capability. Everything comes with a compromise. Now Flex, on the other hand, they've taken the approach that perhaps that wasn't acceptable. So what they've done is they've taken away that capability so that your run times should always be enough to juggle two batteries on one charger. And from owning these tools and using them, I can. So there's a little difference, guys. What do you want? Do you want the capability, but perhaps have the need to have two chargers and three batteries? Or do you just want one charger and two batteries? And there you go. You can decide on that. We're just making you aware of it. Big positive, cool to the touch, even after an hour's plus of like no load test running, and 2 or 3 hours of just playing around with the tools. I cannot get any heat into these Dewalt tools, which is great. Fully rubberized grips and fully rubberized set down on the back sides of the tools, which is really nice. You wouldn't put them down on car panels, although some people might do. If you do, you've got a little bit of rubberized protection there, so you're less likely to scratch it, any car panel. So that's a good thing. Those are my generic observations, guys. I am now going to finish this review with two very quick summaries of both tools, and these summaries need to capture the core things that you need to know about if you'll consider buying them. And I'll come back with a 10-second summary at the end, and then we'll end the video. So, final summary with the DCM848. Forgive me, I've got my notes here. Dual action polisher. Pros: the price, very, very strong, as we talked about. The battery performance, impressive, as good as Flex. They're matching the market leaders with this. In fact, you could argue they're running longer, although the fact that it takes longer to charge, there's a significant difference. But overall, the battery performance is a big positive. The speed range on this particular tool is a positive if we don't talk about the negative considerations around battery life. And the next big positive, guys, this tool is one of the least prone dual action polishers to stalling that I have used so far, and the tool maintains its temperature really, really well. It looks like a solid, powerful, very capable cordless tool. Those are the positive summaries. The negative summaries of this tool: it's heavy, guys, at nearly 3.1 kilos. That's very heavy. So if you struggle with fatigue and carrying the weight of the tools, that will be a consideration. The lack of plate support for a 150mm plate is an issue. Vibration is a negative with this tool, guys. I don't know if hand protection, gel pads and stuff like that are going to help with that, but using it on the higher speeds for prolonged periods, I could feel my wrists were quite numb, so the vibration levels are quite high. Trigger lock location would be better on the other side. The tool has a huge footprint, and we've discussed the potential of downtime with running the tool on full speeds, which is a critical point. Those are your positives, those are your negatives. Now we move on to the Rotary DCM849 cordless, pros and cons. There's more, the cons on this are quite minor. Let's get through them. Once again, I think the price is really solid for where Dewalt are in the marketplace and their reputation. The battery performance, the runtime on it was incredible. 75 minutes on 2200. That was incredible. The speed range, desirable with the 2200 top speed, and the weight. Unlike its brother over there, they've managed to get this tool really, really light. And that does make a big difference. We're talking a 400 gram difference. That's a lot, guys, especially when you're doing the roofs and you've got your arms extended and you're bearing the weight of the machine, or you're doing the vertical panels. The cons: there's a tiny bit more vibration on this tool than the Flex tools. It's not quite as smooth, and it's not quite as smooth as I remember the old 849 polisher to be. But it is tiny. It's almost negligible. the size of the polisher, it could be more compact. The lack of accessories, I'd like to see Dewalt provide you with extension bars and different plate sizes. I'm not overly keen on this this Dewalt proprietary plate with the rubber end. It's a flexible plate that you gotta be careful. If you're leaning in, so you're taking out sanding marks and stuff like that, you'll put a bit of pressure and you'll just lean the machine in. It's great for that, but it doesn't quite fit in with how I polish. I want rigid plates with flexible padding underneath, and I tend to keep the plates flat to the panel. So I'd like that capability there. And again, the trigger lock being on the wrong side is a little bit of an issue for me. Those are the overall pros and cons, and I'll put them up in little tables if I can get my graphical skills going to make it easier to understand. And now I'm going to deliver my final conclusions. Okay guys, final summary. I've given you all the information in this review to make an informed decision on whether or not you want to buy these tools. Now, there's one final very interesting thing. So Dewalt are obviously a major tool manufacturer with a good reputation. Now, this is really, as far as I'm concerned, Dewalt playing a card, or putting their chips on the table, if you like, and entering this automotive polishing marketplace. They always had that rotary polisher, but that's like a rotary sander. It's used for other applications as well as polishing. And Dewalt, this is the first time they're sort of, by offering a dual action polisher and a cordless one as well, that they're actually now saying, we're giving you machines for polishing cars, which is great, okay? Now, the problem with this is you can't just put one or two chips on the table if you're going to compete with Rupes and Flex. Now, Rupes, kind of made popular the long throw, free spinning dual action polisher, the 15mm throw. Flex pioneered the force rotation polisher, and we're going back decades here. And both Rupes and Flex have kind of been leading the way in terms of innovation of machine polishing tools. Now, we only have 3 offerings from Dewalt: corded and cordless Rotary, the 849, corded and cordless, and the cordless 848 dual action polisher. So one, I would like to see a corded 848 polisher coming, if it's not already, so that they've got 4 polishers in their range. That's important. But I think it is also important for Dewalt to perhaps look at providing a 3-inch mini polisher, because that's a very important detailing tool, maybe a cordless one, and especially a nano polisher tool equivalent to the Rupes hybrid or the Flex PXE, what is this called? Flex PXE80, isn't it? Fantastic little tool that I've talked about many times, and it's an innovative tool as well. It's different to the Rupes hybrid. They've not just done the same thing. So you've got 2 companies which innovate. So what I want to see from Dewalt is I want to see them catch up with Rupes and Flex. So give me a nano tool, give me a 3-inch polisher, give me all that sort of stuff. When they've caught up, what I would then love to see is Dewalt innovate. So give us some things that are new. We have a new polisher on the market, for example, the Lake County or Country Manufacturing are working on this Udos tool, which is a rotary and a long throw polisher, variable orbit polisher, which is a unique thing. Give us something that has not been done before. Makita, Dewalt's rival, have a force rotation with a switch on it so it becomes a free spinning machine. Again, that's relatively unique. So where can you innovate? You might not be able to give us a new form of tool, but you could look at things that are desirable on the tools that other people aren't doing. Talking to my patrons, forms of innovation that you could put on these toolings. A built-in paint depth gauge, for example, on some part of the tool. So you could set down another part of the tool, perhaps on the handle. So you're polishing away, you finish your set, you put the tool down, it can measure how much paint depth gauge you have. Perhaps built-in lighting on the tool might be desirable. We know there's bolt-on accessory lightings, perhaps built-in lightings, built-in temperature monitoring. So you could have a little infrared dot that comes out of the tool, measures the temperature. So you can just be aware of how you're raising the temperature of the tool. There are all sorts of bits of innovation. when you're polishing cars as well, one thing that's very important is a consistent set time, which I'm very bad on. So a tool that you could actually set a timer on, for example, you could set a 2-minute countdown on it, press a button and away it goes. Start polishing, and then you know when it hits 2 minutes to stop doing your set. And if you follow that all the way over the car, you'll get a much more consistent level of polishing. Yes, all these things can be done with phone apps and stuff like that, but you'll never use them. If they're built into the tool, you'll use them. So there's some examples of innovation for you, and I'm not a tool manufacturer. So I would love to see Dewalt come up with some innovative things for their tooling. And trust me, if you get it right, and it's good, and it's of value, you'll be the first to do it. You'll sell a lot of tools, and other people will be copying your designs then. And you know you're doing the right thing if people are looking at what you're doing and following you. So that's what I want to say. It's also very important to say, guys, that overall I can find very little faults on the Rotary offering from Dewalt. It's essentially brilliant. It's light. It runs, you know, it's hard to bog it down. It doesn't overheat, and it's got a great top speed. There's very little wrong with this. This tool could divide opinion. It could divide opinion. I've been testing this down with the professionals at Fresh Layers who are polishing day in, day out. I gave this to Alfie to look at one day, and he looked at it and I both said, you know, what do you think? And he's looking at it, thought it's a bit kind of rattly. Then I went back the next day and gave him the polisher just to use, and after he finished using it, he had a big smile on his face, and it was just, this is amazing. However, some people I think are going to find it too heavy, and some people won't like the vibration. But what you will like is the capability you get from a cordless tool. This is a little bit of a beast. It's a big old tool, but it's got tons of power. So yeah, that's the key thing. The dual action polisher is going to be the one that divides opinion. I've loved reviewing this stuff, guys. I really, you know, I love all this detailing stuff. I love getting a chance to do this. So a huge thank you to the Dewalt distributor for sending me these tools for reviews. Let me know in the comments if you think this review was useful and fair. Like I said at the start, do not forget to subscribe. Other than that, take care, and that's all from me in this video. Bye.
Holding on to what I knew, but the moment's gone. Where was I when